Welcome back. Picture a young squire, dripping with sweat as he rushes to prepare his knight's armor, aware that danger waits just beyond the campfires. The life of a knight squire was a relentless mix of servitude and peril, with little room for rest or failure. Tonight, we'll step into his shoes and uncover the harsh realities behind this grueling role. If you love diving deep into history's raw moments, please like, subscribe, and share where you're listening from. Now, prepare to enter this demanding world. You wake up before dawn, the chill of the early morning seeping through the thin woolen blankets and chilling you to the bone. Your muscles ache from the hard floor you had no choice but to sleep on, and your body feels heavy with exhaustion, even though the day is just beginning. Being a knight squire means that your life is defined by relentless servitude, endless physical toil, and the ever-present shadow of danger that follows every step your knight takes. You stretch tired limbs, knowing that there is no rest for you today. You will spend every moment running errands, polishing armor, caring for horses, and preparing for whatever battle or tournament lies ahead. This is your life now, a life far from glory, soaked in sweat, dust, and constant anxiety. Your day begins with tending to the knight's horses, the powerful beasts that are both your charge and your responsibility. You scrub their flanks until your hands are raw, brush their manes carefully, and feed them with grain and hay, hoping the animals will remain strong and healthy. Horses are expensive and precious, and the knight's status depends on them as much as on his sword or shield. You learn to read their moods, to soothe their fears, and to anticipate their needs. This work is exhausting but necessary. The weight of the knight's armor and weapons falls partly on you too, as you help prepare the horses for battle or training, fastening straps and adjusting saddles with trembling fingers. One mistake could mean injury or death, for yourself or the knight. After the horses are ready, you move on to the armor, a massive and complex suit of metal plates and chainmail that weighs heavily both physically and mentally. Your task is to clean and polish it until it gleams, a reflection of the knight's honor and reputation. This work takes hours, your arms aching from the repetitive motion, your clothes stained with dirt, grease, and rust. You are covered in sweat, your skin scraped and bruised from sharp edges and heavy tools, yet you cannot afford to show fatigue or complain. The knight's pride depends on his armor's shine, and your failure would bring shame not only on you, but on your entire household. This is not a job for the faint-hearted or the lazy. You assist the knight in donning his armor, helping him into the cumbersome plates, fastening buckles and straps that seem impossible to manage alone. The armor is so heavy that the knight staggers under its weight, and you must steady him. Your hands tremble as you adjust pieces, knowing that any loose fitting could be fatal in battle. You learn to anticipate the knight's movements, to work silently and efficiently, because every second counts. This close proximity to the knight is both an honor and a burden. You are expected to serve without question, to be ready at a moment's notice, and to risk your life alongside him without complaint. Training is relentless and punishing. You watch the knight spar and fight, learning from his skill and discipline, but also feeling the sting of your own inadequacy. You practice swinging swords, wielding shields, and mounting horses, but every mistake is met with frustration or harsh correction. The knight's patience is thin, and the pressure to prove yourself is constant. You sweat through countless drills, your body bruised and battered, your confidence shaken. The dream of knighthood feels distant, overshadowed by the harsh reality of the grueling work required to earn it. Beyond the physical demands, you face constant danger. Knights are warriors, and their lives are often at risk. You accompany your lord into battle, where fear is a constant companion. You carry his weapons, watch his back, and try to avoid the chaos of clashing steel and flying arrows. The noise and confusion are overwhelming, and death seems to lurk behind every shout and every fallen comrade. You witness horrors that haunt your dreams and test your courage beyond anything you imagined. The line between survival and death is razor thin, and your youth and inexperience make every moment more perilous. Your duties extend beyond battle. You run errands, deliver messages, and serve at feasts and ceremonies, always aware that your behavior reflects on your knight and your family. You must learn etiquette, manners, and the social rules that govern noble life. Mistakes here can be just as damaging as failures on the battlefield. You constantly observe, listen, and adapt, striving to fit into a world that feels alien and unforgiving. The pressure to succeed weighs heavily, and the fear of disgrace drives you to work harder and harder, often at the cost of your health and happiness. Despite the hardship, you catch glimpses of the world of knights, the camaraderie, the honor, the moments of triumph. You see the admiration knights command, the respect they receive, and the power they wield. These moments fuel your determination, keeping you moving forward through exhaustion and pain. You dream of the day when you will don your own armor, carry your own sword, and ride into battle as a knight. Until then, you endure, learning, serving, and surviving in the grueling world of a knight's squire, a world far removed from glory, but utterly necessary for the path ahead. You wake early once again, the chill of the morning biting through the thin fabric of your tunic, your muscles stiff from the previous day's labor. Being a squire means never truly resting. Your days are long and brutal, marked by constant movement and endless tasks, all in service to your knight. You already know that this life is nothing like the stories of glory and honor you once dreamed about. Instead, it is a relentless grind of sweat, dirt, and exhaustion. You roll out of bed on the cold floor and brace yourself for the day ahead, knowing that whatever comes, there will be no mercy. Your hands are raw from scrubbing armor and grooming horses, your back aches from carrying heavy equipment, and your feet are sore from endless hours on stone and dirt. Yet, you rise because giving up is not an option. Your first duty, as always, is to the horses. They are majestic creatures, powerful and proud, but also stubborn and easily spooked. You must know them well to care for them properly, because their health and temperament are vital to your knight's success. You fetch water and clean their stalls, mucking out layers of manure and straw until the stable smells less like decay and more like life. The smell of hay and sweat fills your nostrils as you brush down the horses' coats, brushing dirt and dried sweat away, making sure there are no sores or injuries hidden beneath their fur. Their heavy breathing is a reminder that they, like you, endure hardship and exhaustion. Sometimes, when the day allows, you talk softly to them, seeking comfort in their steady presence. You feel a connection to these animals that goes beyond duty. They are your companions in this grueling world. Once the horses are cared for, you turn to the armor, your knight's shining second skin and burden. The process of cleaning it is painstaking. Every piece must be scrubbed, polished, and oiled to prevent rust and ensure it will protect him in battle. You dip your rag in water mixed with sand or ash and scour the plates until your fingers are sore and your arms tremble. The metal is cold and unforgiving, biting into your skin if you are not careful. You learn to recognize every scratch, every dent, every loose rivet, because failure to notice even the smallest flaw could mean death for your knight. Hours are swallowed by this task alone, but there is no room for complaint. The armor is a symbol of honor and power, and your work reflects on your knight's reputation as much as your own. Helping the knight put on his armor is another task that demands your full attention and skill. The weight is staggering, and the intricate lacing and buckling require both strength and precision. You steady him as he struggles to move in the heavy plates, supporting his arms and legs, adjusting straps, and checking each joint. You become intimately familiar with every part of the suit, from the helmet that hides his face to the gauntlets that encase his hands. This close contact teaches you not only the physical mechanics of armor, but also the patience and discipline necessary to serve well. You know that a single mistake could cause discomfort, or worse, a deadly vulnerability on the battlefield. Training is where dreams of glory meet harsh reality. Your knight is a formidable warrior, skilled and ruthless in combat, and you must learn from him if you hope to one day earn your own spurs. The practice is relentless. Sword swings, shield blocks, horseback drills, and footwork that leave you gasping for breath. Every mistake is met with sharp words or harsh correction. Your muscles scream in protest, bruises bloom on your arms and legs, and sweat drenches your clothes, but quitting is not an option. The path to knighthood is steep and unforgiving, paved with hard labor and sacrifice. You are constantly reminded that this is no game. Lives depend on your skill and discipline. Beyond the physical demands, you learn the harsh realities of court life and social expectation. Serving at feasts and tournaments, you observe the complex dance of politics and power that surrounds knights and nobles. You listen to whispered gossip and study the manners and customs that govern behavior. Your conduct must be flawless, for any misstep could disgrace your knight and ruin your chances for advancement. You learn to be patient and observant, to speak only when spoken to, and to carry yourself with a dignity that belies your lowly position. The lessons of court life are as vital as those of the battlefield, and mastering both is essential. Danger is never far away. Whether in battle, on patrol, or traveling through hostile lands, the threat of violence is constant. You witness firsthand the brutal realities of war, the clash of steel, the cries of the wounded, the chaos that consumes even the bravest souls. Your role is to support and protect your knight, carrying his weapons, tending to his wounds, and watching his back. Fear is a constant companion, gnawing at the edges of your courage, but you learn to channel it into vigilance and quick action. Every moment is a test, and the line between life and death is thin. Despite the hardships, there are fleeting moments of camaraderie and even joy. You share meals with other squires and servants, exchange stories and jokes, and find solace in the brief reprieves from duty. Laughter is rare but precious, a balm against the relentless grind. You sometimes catch glimpses of the glory you dreamed of as a child, the cheers of a crowd at a tournament, the gleam of sunlight on polished armor, the proud bearing of a knight who commands respect. These moments fuel your determination, reminding you why you endure the sweat, servitude, and danger. As the day fades and evening settles over the castle, you reflect on the relentless demands of your role. You are far from the heroic figure of legend. Instead, you are a servant and apprentice, tested by hardship and shaped by discipline. The path of a squire is brutal, filled with sweat, pain, and constant vigilance, but it is the necessary forge for those who seek knighthood. You know the journey ahead is long and uncertain, but you are resolved to walk it, step by grueling step, with courage and determination. This is your life now, a life of servitude, shadowed by danger, but also the first step toward the honor you have always dreamed of. The sun has barely risen when you find yourself once again on your feet, muscles stiff from yesterday's relentless labor and a night spent on a hard wooden bench. The life of a night squire is one of constant motion, and rest is a luxury rarely afforded. You know that from this moment until the day's end, your body will be pushed to its limits and beyond, tasked with duties that range from the menial to the perilous. You don your rough tunic, still stained with dirt and sweat from before, and prepare yourself for another day of servitude and endless toil. It is a life filled with hardship, and yet there is a stubborn fire inside you that refuses to be snuffed out. The morning begins with the care of the horses, magnificent creatures that embody both power and grace, but also demand your full attention. You sweep away straw bedding, clear manure, and fill troughs with fresh water, each task exhausting yet vital. These horses are more than mere animals. They are extensions of your knight's strength and pride. Grooming them is delicate work. You brush away sweat and dirt, check for injuries hidden beneath their thick coats, and speak softly to calm their nerves. You learn to anticipate their moods and needs, becoming attuned to their movements and sounds. The bond you forge with these animals is one of the few comforts in your grueling life, a small moment of peace amid the chaos. Once the horses are tended to, your focus shifts to the armor, an enormous, cumbersome collection of metal plates and chainmail that serves as both protection and a symbol of status. The process of cleaning it is tedious and exhausting. You scrub the plates with sand and oil, polishing them until they gleam under the flickering torchlight. Your hands blister and your back aches from the repetitive motion, but you dare not slacken your effort. The armor's condition reflects directly on your knight's reputation, and any imperfection could be disastrous in battle. You learn every hinge, every buckle, every rivet by heart, knowing that your skill and attention can mean the difference between life and death. The weight of responsibility presses down on you, heavier than the metal you labor over. Helping your knight don his armor is a lesson in patience and precision. The suit is a labyrinth of overlapping plates, straps, and padding that must fit perfectly to provide protection without hindering movement. You assist him in lifting the heavy pieces, fastening buckles, and adjusting joints, all while calming his frustrations when the weight becomes oppressive. Your hands are steady but tire quickly, aware that a single misstep could cost dearly in the heat of battle. You become a part of the armor itself, the unseen support that allows the knight to wield his power. In these moments, the bond between you and your lord deepens, forged through shared toil and mutual dependence. Training dominates much of your day, a brutal regimen designed to transform you from a mere servant into a worthy warrior. You spar with wooden swords, wrestle with shields heavier than your arm, and practice riding at full gallop across uneven terrain. The exertion leaves you gasping for breath, muscles burning, and sweat stinging your eyes. Your knight watches closely, offering sharp criticism and rare praise. Every failure is a lesson, every success a hard-won step toward mastery. The dreams of knighthood that once seemed distant become tangible, even if still far from your grasp. The pain and exhaustion forge your body and spirit, teaching you endurance, discipline, and the bitter taste of sacrifice. But life as a squire is not only about physical hardship, it is also a constant navigation of social expectations and hierarchy. You learn quickly that the world of knights and nobles is governed by rules both spoken and unspoken. At feasts and courtly gatherings, you observe the intricate dance of manners and protocol. Your posture, your speech, your very presence are scrutinized. A single misstep, an ill-timed word, a clumsy gesture can bring shame upon your knight and jeopardize your future. You practice humility and patience, listening more than speaking, learning to read the moods and intentions of those around you. The lessons of etiquette are as vital as those of combat, for knighthood is as much about honor and reputation as it is about skill with a sword. The dangers you face are ever present, lurking in the shadows of battle and travel. You accompany your knight into skirmishes where steel clashes and arrows fly, your heart pounding as you carry weapons and watch for threats. The chaos of combat is terrifying, with death and injury stalking every corner. You learn to be vigilant, to react quickly, and to support your lord without hesitation. Fear is a constant companion, but you train yourself to master it, channeling adrenaline into focus and courage. The line between survival and death is thin, and every moment tests your resolve and training. These experiences are harsh, but invaluable, shaping you into a warrior in both body and mind. Despite the relentless demands, there are rare moments of camaraderie and even joy. You share meals with fellow squires and servants, exchange stories and laughter, and find brief relief in companionship. The bonds you form become lifelines, reminding you that you are not alone in this grueling path. You witness the honor and respect that true knights command, and these glimpses of glory fuel your determination. The road ahead is arduous, but the possibility of knighthood, of standing proudly in armor under the sun's light, keeps you moving forward. As dusk settles and the day draws to a close, your body weary and your spirit tested, you reflect on the harsh reality of your role. Being a squire is far from the romantic tales of chivalry and adventure. It is a life of sweat, servitude, and constant danger, a relentless apprenticeship forged in hardship and discipline. Yet, within this struggle lies the foundation of future glory, the shaping of a man who may one day wear the mantle of knighthood with honor and courage. You close your eyes, knowing that tomorrow will demand everything again, and you will rise to meet it, step by grueling step. You wake to the chill of dawn seeping through the small window of your chamber, your body already aching from yesterday's relentless toil. The life of a knight squire is no tale of easy glory or knightly valor. It is a grueling, exhausting path where sweat, servitude, and danger are constant companions. From the moment your day begins, you are on your feet, performing endless tasks for your knight and his household, learning through every hardship what it truly means to serve and survive. Today, like every day, will test your limits physically, mentally, and emotionally, and you steel yourself to face whatever comes. Your first duty is always to the horses. These great beasts are the pride and lifeblood of your knight, and their care is paramount. You head to the stables, the air thick with the smell of hay and animal musk, where the horses paw impatiently as you approach. You sweep out the stalls, gathering piles of straw and soiled bedding, your muscles straining with the effort. Feeding them is another task of precision. You measure out grain and water, careful to keep each horse's diet balanced to maintain strength and stamina. The grooming is long and meticulous. You brush dirt and sweat from their coats, check their hooves for injuries, and soothe their nerves with quiet words and gentle hands. Though this work is exhausting and far from glamorous, you know the horse's health is essential. They will carry your knight into battle and bear him safely through the dangers ahead, so you must be vigilant. After the horses are ready, your focus shifts to the armor, your knight's second skin and shield. The armor is a heavy, complex arrangement of plates and mail that protects but also weighs down. Your task is to keep it spotless, polished to a shine that reflects the knight's honor and reputation. You scrub and oil every surface, your hands raw from rubbing and your back aching from bending over the workbench for hours. The smell of rust and oil fills your nostrils as you labor, and the sharp edges bite your skin if you are careless. You learn to recognize every dent and scratch, knowing that a single flaw could mean disaster in battle. This task requires patience, care, and endurance qualities that you develop daily, even when your body protests. Helping your knight don his armor is a test of strength and precision. The suit is cumbersome, made of interlocking plates fastened with countless buckles and straps. You steady your knight as he struggles beneath the weight, supporting limbs, adjusting fittings, and ensuring nothing is loose. This work demands care, for any mistake could leave your knight vulnerable to injury or death. The physical exertion is exhausting, and the pressure to perform flawlessly weighs on you heavily. Yet through this, a bond grows between you and your lord, forged through shared struggle and trust. You are not just a servant, but a vital part of his readiness for battle. Training dominates much of your day. Your knight is a skilled and demanding warrior, and he expects you to learn quickly and work tirelessly. You spend hours practicing swordplay, learning to wield the heavy weapons of war with speed and precision. Your arms ache from swinging wooden swords and lifting shields, and your legs burn from endless drills and horseback riding. The discipline is harsh, with little room for failure. Mistakes are met with criticism or correction, and you learn to push through pain and exhaustion. The dream of knighthood is distant, but every hard-earned lesson brings you closer. You know that this brutal training is the only way to survive the dangers ahead. Social skills are just as important as martial prowess. Court life is complex and filled with unspoken rules. You learn to observe, listen, and adapt, carefully navigating the delicate balance of manners and expectations. Your conduct at feasts, tournaments, and gatherings must reflect well on your knight and your family. You practice humility and discretion, mastering the art of speaking and acting at the right moments. A single misstep could bring disgrace, undoing years of hard work. These lessons in etiquette are difficult but vital, teaching you the political and social skills that underpin the world of knights and nobles. Danger is ever present, You accompany your knight on patrols, into skirmishes, and across hostile lands. The threat of violence is real and constant. In battle, you must stay alert, ready to assist, defend, and protect. The clang of swords, the roar of battle cries, and the cries of the wounded fill your ears and haunt your nights. Fear courses through your veins, but you learn to harness it, using it to sharpen your senses and focus your actions. The line between life and death is thin and ever-shifting, and every moment requires courage and quick thinking. Despite the hardships, moments of camaraderie and fleeting joy provide some relief. You share meals and stories with fellow squires and servants, find laughter in brief reprieves, and build bonds that sustain you. These connections remind you that you are not alone in this struggle and give you strength to endure. You glimpse the honor and respect commanded by true knights, fueling your resolve to continue. The path is steep and unforgiving, but the hope of someday joining their ranks keeps you moving forward. As the sun sets and exhaustion settles deep in your bones, you reflect on the grueling nature of your role. Being a squire is not a life of glory, but of sweat, servitude, and constant danger. It is a relentless apprenticeship where every hardship is a lesson and every task a test. Yet within this struggle lies the foundation of future honor, the shaping of a warrior and nobleman. You close your eyes, knowing tomorrow will bring the same trials, and you will face them with grit and determination, step by exhausting step, toward the dream of knighthood. You awaken long before the sun has risen, the chill of the castle stone pressing cold against your back as you reluctantly leave the meager comfort of your cot. The life of a knight's squire is unyielding, each day beginning before dawn and stretching long into the night with relentless demands and harsh discipline. Your body aches from the previous day's labor-sore muscles, bruised hands, and calloused fingers are the marks of your servitude and your effort. You know today will be no different, filled with endless chores, exhausting training, and the pressure to prove yourself worthy of the armor you hope one day to wear. Despite the fatigue gnawing at your bones, there is no room for rest. You rise, push back the fog of weariness, and prepare to face the grueling day ahead. Your first tasks revolve around the care of the horse's majestic, powerful creatures essential to your knight's mobility and status. You make your way to the stables, where the familiar scent of hay, sweat, and horseflesh fills the air. You sweep the stalls, removing layers of soiled straw and manure with aching arms. The horses watch you with dark, steady eyes as you approach, their breaths warm against the cold air. You brush their coats diligently, working to remove dirt, sweat, and dried mud. You inspect their hooves for cracks or injury, knowing that even a minor limp could spell disaster in battle or travel. Feeding them carefully, you measure grain and water, understanding that their health and strength rest partly on your attention. Though this work is grueling and often dirty, it is also one of the few moments when your efforts directly support your knight's success. These creatures, magnificent and temperamental, become your companions and your responsibility. After tending to the horses, you turn to the formidable task of cleaning and maintaining the knight's armor. The weight and complexity of this metal suit is daunting, made up of interlocking plates, chainmail, and countless buckles. You scrub each piece meticulously with sand and oil, removing rust, dirt, and tarnish to ensure it shines like a mirror. Your hands are raw from the repetitive motion, your arms weary from holding heavy pieces for hours. You learn the location of every dent, scratch, and rivet, because the slightest flaw can be a fatal vulnerability. The armor is more than protection, it is the outward symbol of your knight's honor and reputation, and your care reflects on both of you. You labor long into the day, the clang of metal and the smell of oil, your constant companions. Helping the knight don his armor is a delicate and demanding task. The suit is heavy and unwieldy, requiring your strength and precision to fasten each strap and secure every plate. You steady him as he shifts beneath the weight, adjusting pieces so that nothing chafes or loosens. Your hands tremble from exertion and the pressure to be perfect, knowing that a single mistake could cost your knight dearly in combat. These moments bring you close to your lord, revealing a side of him few see a man burdened by his own armor and responsibilities. This shared struggle fosters a silent bond, forged in sweat and trust. You are his support, his unseen shield, preparing him to face dangers that you can only glimpse from behind. Training is relentless and harsh. Your knight expects nothing less than total dedication, pushing you through exhausting drills and sparring sessions. You practice swordsmanship, shield work, horseback riding, and foot combat, each repetition chipping away at your fatigue and building your skill. Bruises and cuts mark your body, proof of your progress and your failures. The discipline is strict, with little tolerance for error or weakness. Harsh words and sharp corrections drive you to improve, while rare praise fuels your determination. Every moment spent training is a step closer to the knighthood you desire, but the path is steep and unforgiving. The fantasy of chivalry fades beneath the harsh reality of sweat and pain. Your duties extend beyond the battlefield and stable. You serve at feasts and ceremonies, learning the complex rules of etiquette and courtly behavior. You observe the nobles around you, studying their speech, gestures, and customs, knowing that your conduct can bring honor or disgrace. You practice humility and patience, navigating social waters filled with intrigue and expectation. Mistakes in this world can be as damaging as wounds on the battlefield. Your role is to represent your knight well and to prepare yourself for the political and social challenges that accompany knighthood. These lessons are difficult to grasp but essential to your future. Danger shadows your every step. You accompany your knight on journeys through hostile lands, on patrols where bandits or enemy soldiers may lurk, and into the chaos of battle. The noise, confusion, and terror of combat test your courage and resolve. Your role is to protect, assist, and survive. Fear is a constant presence, but you learn to harness it, turning it into focus and quick reflexes. The thin line between life and death sharpens every moment, and you grow acutely aware of your own vulnerability. Each battle is a brutal lesson, teaching you the realities that stories rarely capture. Even amidst hardship, moments of camaraderie and brief joy lighten the load. You share meals with fellow squires and servants, exchange jokes and stories, and find brief respite in laughter and friendship. These small connections sustain you, reminding you that you are not alone in your struggle. You witness acts of valor and honor among the knights, and feel a stirring hope that one day you might stand among them. The path is harsh, but the possibility of glory keeps your spirit alive. As night falls, your body exhausted and your mind heavy, you reflect on the demanding life you lead. Being a squire is far from the romanticized tales of adventure. It is sweat, servitude, and constant peril. Yet it is also the crucible where you forge the skills and character needed for knighthood. You close your eyes, knowing that tomorrow will demand the same relentless effort. Still, you will rise to meet it, step by grueling step, driven by a fierce hope and the dream of honor. The morning light barely filters into your cramped chamber as you rise again, your body heavy and aching from the relentless demands of the squire's life. Sleep, if you could call it that, was interrupted by aches and the damp chill of the stone walls, and yet you know that rest is a luxury long behind you. Your muscles scream from yesterday's training and labor, but there is no time for hesitation or complaint. The day ahead will bring more sweat, more exhaustion, and the ever-present weight of responsibility. Being a knight squire is not a tale of glory. It is a story of grueling work, servitude, and constant danger. Still, within you burns the stubborn hope that one day this struggle will lead to honor. Your first task is to tend to the horses, the great animals that are both pride and burden to your knight. You enter the stable, the heavy scent of hay, sweat, and manure enveloping you as you prepare to clean and feed the beasts. The stables are noisy with the sounds of snorting and hooves scraping stone. You muck out the stalls, shoveling layers of straw and waste until the floor is clean enough to prevent illness. Then comes the grooming, brushing dirt, dried sweat, and mud from thick coats, checking for cuts or signs of fatigue. The horses watch you with dark, intelligent eyes, their massive bodies trembling with the memory of battle or the strain of travel. Caring for them is exhausting work, but you know their health is crucial. They carry your knight through danger and glory, and your diligence can mean the difference between victory and defeat. Next comes the armor, your knight's protection, and his status symbol. The weighty plates, chainmail, and intricate straps must be meticulously cleaned and polished. You rub and oil each piece, battling rust and dirt, your hands blistered and sore. The clang of metal echoes faintly as you work, the smell of oil and metal filling the air. Each dent or scratch you find is a reminder that your vigilance can save lives. The armor is no mere decoration, it is a lifeline, and your care reflects on your knight's honor. Hours pass in this back-breaking labor, yet there is no complaint, no letting up. The pressure to perform flawlessly is immense, and failure is not an option. Helping your knight into his armor is a delicate, strenuous task. You steady him as he struggles beneath the heavy suit, fastening buckles and adjusting plates so that nothing pinches or shifts. Your hands tremble from exertion, knowing that any loose fitting could prove fatal. This moment of closeness reveals the human beneath the helmet, a man burdened by his own armor and the weight of duty. Your role is to be both servant and shield, preparing him to face whatever dangers lie ahead. This shared struggle forges a bond between you, built on trust and mutual reliance. Training is relentless, a constant test of endurance and skill. You spar with wooden swords, wrestle shields heavier than your arms, and ride horses until your legs burn with fatigue. Your body is marked with bruises and scrapes, each a testament to the grueling effort demanded of you. The knight watches closely, offering sharp correction and rare praise, pushing you harder with each mistake. The path to knighthood is steep, and your dreams of glory often feel distant beneath the harsh reality of sweat and pain. Yet, every lesson learned is a step closer, and you steel yourself to endure whatever comes. Social life among knights and nobles is another battlefield. You observe the courtly rituals, learning manners, speech, and posture, knowing that your conduct reflects not only on you, but on your lord. One misstep at a feast or tournament can bring shame and closed doors to advancement. You practice patience and humility, listening more than speaking, watching more than acting. The politics of the court are subtle and dangerous, and you learn quickly that survival here depends as much on your wits as your sword. Danger lurks at every turn. You accompany your knight on patrols and into battle, where the clash of steel and cries of the wounded are constant reminders of mortality. Fear courses through you, but you learn to channel it into vigilance and quick reflexes. The chaos of combat is overwhelming, but your role is clear to protect your knight, carry his weapons, and watch for threats. The line between life and death is thin, and every moment demands courage beyond your years. Despite the hardships, moments of camaraderie and brief joy provide light. You share meals and stories with fellow squires, find laughter in rare reprieves, and build bonds that sustain you. These connections remind you that you are not alone in this struggle and offer strength to press on. The honor and respect commanded by knights inspire you, fueling your determination to endure the harsh path ahead. As night falls and exhaustion settles deep in your bones, you reflect on the life you lead. Being a squire is sweat, servitude, and constant peril, far from the romantic tales of chivalry. Yet it is the forge where warriors and noblemen are made, a brutal apprenticeship that shapes body and spirit. You close your eyes, knowing tomorrow will demand all you have, and you will meet it with grit and hope, one grueling step at a time. You wake before the sun, the cold stone floor beneath your thin blanket offering no comfort as the weight of the coming day settles heavily on your shoulders. The life of a night squire is relentless, a daily grind filled with sweat, servitude, and danger that leaves little room for rest or ease. Your muscles ache from yesterday's labor, your hands raw from polishing armor, and your back stiff from hauling heavy gear. Yet, despite the exhaustion, you rise and prepare to face another day of duties that test every ounce of your endurance. There is no room for complaint, no pause for fatigue. The path to knighthood is steep and unforgiving, but your spirit clings to the hope that all this toil will one day be rewarded. Your first task is the horses. The stables are alive with sounds and smells, snorts, hoofbeats on stone, the mingled scents of hay, sweat, and manure. These beasts are more than animals. They are the lifeblood of your knight, companions in battle, and symbols of status. You work quickly and carefully, mucking out stalls and spreading fresh straw to make their rest bearable. You brush their coats with worn claws until they shine, checking carefully for cuts, swelling, or signs of fatigue. Feeding them is a precise task. Too little grain will weaken them. Too much can make them ill. You develop an almost instinctive understanding of their needs, and the bond between you and these powerful creatures becomes a small comfort amid the harshness of your life. You talk softly to them sometimes, seeking solace in their steady presence. Next comes the armor, your knight's protective shell and mark of honor. The suit is an intricate assembly of metal plates and chainmail, heavy and cumbersome, demanding meticulous care. You scrub each piece with sand and oil, your fingers raw from the endless effort. Every dent, scratch, or loose rivet must be found and repaired, for a flaw in the armor can be fatal on the battlefield. You work methodically, aware that your knight's safety depends as much on your skill and dedication as on his own courage. The scent of oil and metal fills the air as you polish the armor until it gleams in the flickering torchlight. This task is exhausting and thankless, but it is the foundation of your knight's readiness. Helping your knight don his armor is a lesson in patience and strength. You steady him as he struggles beneath the weight, fastening buckles and adjusting straps to ensure a perfect fit. Your hands tremble with the effort, aware that even a small mistake can expose a deadly weakness. This close contact brings you face to face with your lord, not as a distant figure of legend, but as a man burdened by the very armor that grants him power. The trust placed in you during these moments is immense, and you become a vital part of his preparation for the dangers ahead. Your role is one of silent support, unspoken yet essential. Training dominates much of your day. Under the watchful eye of your knight, you endure endless drills of swordplay, shield work, horseback riding, and foot combat. Your body is pushed to the brink. Bruises, cuts, and exhaustion are constant companions. Every mistake is met with correction, sometimes harsh, but always driven by the need to prepare you for survival. You learn to wield weapons heavier than you imagined, and to ride horses at breakneck speeds across uneven terrain. The dream of knighthood feels both distant and tangible, a goal that demands sacrifice and unwavering commitment. You sweat and bleed for the chance to prove yourself worthy. Beyond the physical demands lie the social challenges of courtly life. You observe and learn the intricate rules of manners, speech, and conduct expected of knights and nobles. Your behavior at feasts, tournaments, and councils is scrutinized, and a single misstep can bring dishonor. You practice humility, discretion, and patience, mastering the subtle arts of politics and diplomacy. This world is a battlefield of words and gestures as much as of swords and shields. Your success depends not only on martial skill, but also on your ability to navigate the complex social landscape that surrounds your knight. Danger is a constant shadow. Whether on patrols, in skirmishes, or full battles, you live with the knowledge that death is never far away. The clash of steel, the cries of the wounded, and the chaos of combat are seared into your memory. You learn to manage fear, using it to sharpen your focus and quicken your reflexes. Your role is to protect your knight, carry his weapons, and stay alert for threats. Every moment requires courage and vigilance. The line between life and death is thin, and every choice can be the difference between survival and catastrophe. Despite the hardships, moments of camaraderie and fleeting joy offer respite. You share meals and stories with fellow squires and servants, find laughter in small pleasures, and build bonds that sustain you. These connections remind you that you are not alone, that others walk this harsh path alongside you. You witness acts of valor and honor, and these glimpses of glory inspire you to persevere. The road is hard, but the promise of knighthood keeps your spirit burning bright. As night falls, exhaustion settles deep in your bones, and you reflect on the grueling nature of your role. Being a squire is sweat, servitude, and danger, far from the romantic tales of chivalry told in songs and stories. Yet it is the crucible in which warriors are forged, a brutal apprenticeship shaping body, mind, and character. You close your eyes, knowing that tomorrow will demand everything again. Still you will rise to meet it, step by arduous step, driven by hope and the dream of honor that fuels your every breath. You wake to the soft light of dawn filtering through the narrow window of your chamber. The weight of the past years heavy on your shoulders, but your heart unbroken. The life of a night squire has been a brutal journey of sweat, servitude, and constant danger. But today marks the turning point you have long dreamed of. Today, after years of relentless toil and sacrifice, the day you have prepared for arrives, the day you will take your place among the knights. Bearing armor and sword, not as an apprentice, but as a full-fledged warrior. You rise slowly, muscles stiff, but spirit steady, knowing that the grueling path has shaped you into someone worthy of this honor. The castle buzzes with activity as preparations for the ceremony unfold. Fellow squires and servants move hurriedly, the clang of armor and murmur of voices filling the halls. You see the pride and anticipation reflected in their eyes, mingled with the exhaustion that only those who have endured know well. Your armor, once a symbol of servitude, now gleams brightly, polished through countless hours of care. It feels heavy but right, a tangible representation of the journey you have walked. You fasten each strap with practiced hands, aware that this armor will shield you not only from steel, but also from the doubts and fears that once threatened to overwhelm you. Your knight stands nearby, his expression a mixture of pride and solemnity. He has been your mentor, your guardian, and your harshest critic. Through every trial and hardship, he pushed you to become more than you thought possible. Now, as you prepare to step into the light as a knight, you feel the weight of his legacy and the responsibility it carries. His faith in you has been unwavering, and you vow to honor that trust with every step you take. The bond between you has been forged in sweat, battle, and shared sacrifice, a bond that will not easily be broken. The ceremony itself is a blend of tradition and solemnity. You kneel before the lord of the castle, the weight of the moment pressing down on you as the words of knighthood are spoken. The sword that once seemed so distant and unattainable now rests lightly on your shoulders, a symbol of honor, duty, and courage. As you rise, the crowd around you erupts in cheers, but your mind is focused on the path ahead. Knighthood is not an end but a beginning, a call to serve with valor and humility in a world that demands both strength and wisdom. You carry with you the lessons learned in sweat and hardship, ready to face whatever challenges come. Your first duties as a knight quickly replace ceremony with reality. You ride alongside your lord into the bright morning, the weight of armor familiar yet newly empowering. The fields and forests you traverse remind you of the hard lessons learned in the stables and training grounds. Each stride of your horse is a step into a new life, one where you will protect, defend, and uphold the ideals you have come to cherish. The fear that once gnawed at your heart is tempered now by confidence forged through years of preparation. You are no longer merely a squire. You are a knight, and the world opens before you with both opportunity and peril. Yet the memories of servitude and hardship remain close, a reminder of the price paid for this honor. The hours spent scrubbing armor, the endless training, the bruises and fatigue they have shaped you, tempered you, and given you perspective. You remember the sweat and dust, the fear and pain, and the moments of quiet camaraderie that sustained you. These memories ground you, ensuring that humility walks beside pride as you move forward. The journey was arduous, but it was yours, and it has made you who you are. As you settle into your new role, you find that knighthood is as much about service as it is about glory. You defend the weak, uphold justice, and honor the oaths sworn in the presence of lords and ladies. The responsibilities are weighty, and the dangers real, but you face them with the resilience and discipline that years of apprenticeship instilled. Your sword becomes not only a weapon, but a symbol of protection and hope. The lessons of your squire days guide your decisions and actions, reminding you that true strength lies in courage, honor, and loyalty. Over time, you earn respect among your peers and the people you serve. Your reputation grows not just from skill in battle, but from fairness, kindness, and unwavering dedication. You mentor younger squires, passing on the knowledge and experience gained through hardship. The cycle continues, and you take pride in shaping the next generation of knights. The grueling path you once walked becomes a legacy, one that inspires and sustains others. In quiet moments, you reflect on the journey, the sweat, servitude, and constant danger that defined your early years. You understand now that knighthood is not a destination, but a lifelong pursuit of honor and virtue. The hardships endured were not burdens but lessons, forging a spirit capable of meeting the demands of this noble life. You carry those lessons with you, a reminder of the strength found in perseverance and the power of hope. This story, once filled with struggle and sacrifice, now closes on a note of fulfillment and promise. You stand as a knight, forged in the fires of servitude and trial, ready to face the future with courage and honor. The path was long and harsh, but the journey was worth every step. You have earned your place among the knights, and your story will inspire those who follow, a testament to endurance, dedication, and the unyielding human spirit. Babylon was a city of incredible contrasts, a place where breathtaking wealth stood side by side with brutal cruelty. Its towering walls and magnificent temples reached toward the heavens, shining like gold beneath the sun, drawing travelers and traders from far and wide. Yet beneath this dazzling surface, the lives of ordinary people were often marked by fear and suffering. Babylon was ruled by laws that were strict, unyielding, and often merciless laws that ensured that justice, or at least punishment, was swift and severe. The famous Code of Hammurabi, carved into stone for all to see, proclaimed an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, a set of rules that left little room for mercy. In Babylon, even small crimes could mean death or harsh punishment. Stealing a neighbor's property, speaking disrespectfully to a judge, or failing to pay debts could all bring a sentence of brutal retribution. The law was not a shield for the weak, but a weapon used to maintain order and power. For many, the threat of punishment was a constant shadow, a reminder that life in the city was precarious and justice harsh. The streets themselves reflected this tense atmosphere, with narrow alleys filled with those willing to do anything to survive. Cutthroats, thieves, and spies prowled in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike. Babylon's markets were vast and bustling, places of opportunity, but also of danger. Merchants shouted their wares in a cacophony of voices, while hidden hands exchanged secrets and deals that could change fortunes overnight. The city was a center of commerce, but also a place where power was fought for in whispers and conspiracies. The many spies who operated in Babylon gathered information not just for kings and officials, but for rival merchants and ambitious criminals. In a city so full of wealth, the temptation to betray, steal, or manipulate was always strong, and no one could be entirely trusted. The towering ziggurats, temples built to honor the gods, stood as reminders of divine power, but even these sacred places were not safe from human cruelty and fear. The priests who served there wielded great influence and could sway public opinion or the decisions of rulers. They were part of the city's complex social web, a web that intertwined religion, politics, and violence. Worship and sacrifice coexisted with treachery and oppression, creating a city alive with tension and unrest. Babylon was a city where the powerful lived in luxury and the poor struggled just to survive. The opulent palaces and grand houses of the elite cast long shadows over the crowded homes and hovels of the common people. Many lived in constant fear, not only of crime and violence, but also of the unpredictable will of rulers and officials who might punish them without cause. The city's grandeur came at a cost paid in human suffering, a cost that was invisible behind the shining walls, but felt deeply by those who walked the streets. Life in Babylon was unpredictable. Alliances were fragile and betrayals common. Families and neighbors turned against one another, driven by fear or the hope of favor from those in power. The city's complex social order was held together not just by law, but by a network of surveillance and control. Spies and informants were everywhere, reporting on discontent and rebellion before it could flare into open conflict. The city's rulers depended on this system to maintain their grip, knowing that a single uprising could unravel their carefully built kingdom. The question lingers. In a city of soaring towers and endless markets, how many lived in fear that tomorrow would bring only pain? The answer is found in the voices lost to history, those of the merchants who whispered secrets in dark corners, of the families torn apart by laws too harsh to endure, and of the countless souls who moved silently beneath Babylon's glittering surface, carrying their hopes and fears through streets where danger lurked at every turn. Babylon's story is a reminder that even the most magnificent cities have dark hearts. The glitter of gold and the splendor of architecture cannot mask the realities of power wielded without mercy. It was a place where wealth and cruelty walked hand in hand, where justice was swift and often brutal, and where the fate of many was determined not by chance, but by the harsh laws of survival. In the end, Babylon stands as a symbol of the ancient world's contradictions, a city that dazzled and terrified, that inspired awe and bred fear. Its legacy challenges us to look beyond the grandeur and ask difficult questions about justice, power, and humanity. It invites us to remember those who lived in the shadows of greatness, whose stories speak to the timeless struggle between hope and despair in the human experience. Rome was a city of immense power and grandeur, a sprawling empire's heart beating with the rhythms of politics, commerce, and conquest. Yet beneath its marble facades and gleaming temples lay an underworld where the strong devoured the weak and survival was a constant struggle. The streets of Rome were both a stage for spectacle and a battlefield where ordinary people faced dangers as deadly as any gladiatorial contest. The law itself often favored the rich and powerful, leaving the poor vulnerable to exploitation and violence. The gladiators who fought in the grand arenas were both heroes and victims, slaves and entertainers thrown into brutal battles that captivated the public. Their lives were short and harsh, marked by endless training, pain, and the ever-present threat of death. The blood spilled in the Colosseum was a grim reminder of the city's appetite for spectacle and control. Yet, for many Romans, the arena was also a grim metaphor for their own lives, where fate was uncertain and cruelty commonplace. Rome's laws reflected the stark divisions in its society. The wealthy elite enjoyed privileges and protections that the poor could only dream of. Punishments for crimes committed by the rich were often lenient, while the poor faced harsh penalties for even minor offenses. Walking the streets without permission, speaking out against authority, or failing to pay debts could lead to imprisonment, forced labor, or worse. The law was a tool used to maintain social order, but it was also a weapon wielded against those at the bottom of the social ladder. Emperors like Caligula and Nero epitomized the dangers of unchecked power within Rome. Their reigns were marked by excess, cruelty, and terror. Caligula's madness and cruelty became legend, with stories of him humiliating senators, executing rivals on a whim, and indulging in acts of debauchery that shook the city. Nero's rule saw the burning of Rome itself, a disaster some say he watched while singing, and the ruthless persecution of those he saw as threats. For the average Roman, these rulers' whims could mean sudden ruin, and fear of imperial wrath was a daily reality. The city streets were crowded and chaotic, filled with beggars, thieves, and those desperate for a chance at survival. Crime was rampant, and law enforcement was often corrupt or ineffective. Violence could erupt at any moment, from petty thefts to bloody brawls. The poor lived in cramped, unsanitary conditions, with little access to the resources that sustained the wealthy. Disease and hunger stalked the neighborhoods, turning daily life into a constant struggle. In a city of immense wealth, the divide between rich and poor was stark and brutal. Rome's social fabric was woven with tension and mistrust. Neighbors spied on neighbors, fearing betrayal or denunciation. The city's many slaves lived under the constant threat of punishment and abuse, their lives entirely at the mercy of their masters. Even those with some measure of freedom found themselves trapped in a system that favored the powerful and punished dissent. The promise of the Roman dream was often out of reach for most, replaced instead by a harsh reality where one wrong step could lead to disaster. Public spaces like the forums and baths were centers of both community and danger. They were places where politics, business, and gossip mixed freely, but they were also arenas for intrigue and violence. Political rivals plotted against each other, assassinations were not uncommon, and alliances shifted with alarming speed. The city's elite navigated these dangers with skill and ruthlessness, while the poor were left to fend for themselves in a world that showed little mercy. The question arises, in the heart of an empire, how many lived in the shadows, always one step from ruin? For every senator dining in a marble hall, there were countless others fighting for scraps, hiding from debt collectors, or fleeing violence. The grandeur of Rome was a spectacle that masked a society where danger and cruelty were everyday realities for many. The empire's strength was built not only on conquest, but on the subjugation of its own people, a truth often forgotten in tales of glory. Rome's story is a testament to the complexities of power and survival. It reminds us that beneath the surface of civilization lies a world where justice is uneven and where the vulnerable are often sacrificed for the ambitions of the few. The city's history challenges us to see beyond monuments and legends, to understand the human cost of empire and the fragility of those caught in its grip. In the end, Rome's underbelly is a mirror reflecting the timeless struggle between strength and weakness, order and chaos, privilege and poverty. It is a story of resilience and despair, of human ambition and suffering intertwined in the streets of a city that shaped the ancient world. The echoes of Rome's darker side still resonate today, urging us to remember that greatness often comes with a price paid in shadows and silence. Carthage was a city of contradiction and complexity, a bustling hub of trade and wealth nestled along the shores of the Mediterranean. Its grand harbors welcomed ships laden with spices, gold, and exotic goods from distant lands, promising prosperity and power. Yet beneath this veneer of wealth lay a darker reality, a city steeped in ruthless politics, ancient traditions of sacrifice, and a social order that protected the merchant elite while leaving the poor to struggle in the crowded, grimy docks. Carthage was a place where wealth and blood intertwined, where the glimmer of gold was often stained by the shadow of human suffering. One of the most chilling aspects of Carthaginian society was its practice of child sacrifice, a ritual believed to secure favor from the gods, especially Baal-Hamon, the chief deity of the city. In times of crisis, whether during war, famine, or disease, priests demanded the ultimate offering, the lives of children, often from noble families but sometimes from the desperate poor. These sacrifices were believed to appease the gods and ensure the city's survival, a terrifying testament to the lengths people would go to in hopes of divine intervention. The cries of those children and the mournful wails of their families echoed through the city, drowned out only by the relentless beat of drums during these grim ceremonies. While the elite enjoyed vast estates, luxurious lifestyles, and the protection of the law, the majority of Carthage's population lived in stark contrast. The poor inhabited crowded neighborhoods near the docks, where the stench of the harbor mixed with the smoke from cooking fires and the noise of endless labor. These workers, sailors, and craftsmen toiled long hours to maintain the city's economic engine, yet they remained on the margins of society. Access to food, clean water, and medical care was limited, and many lived under constant threat from hunger and disease. The city's laws favored the wealthy merchants and landowners, ensuring their power remained unchallenged, while the poor faced harsh penalties for the slightest misstep. Trade was the lifeblood of Carthage, but it was also a source of tension and inequality. The city's merchants controlled the flow of goods, wealth, and influence, using their power to dominate local politics and suppress dissent. Rivalries among merchant families could be deadly, as alliances shifted and betrayals unfolded behind closed doors. The docks were not just places of commerce, but arenas where conflicts erupted, where disputes over cargo or payment could lead to violence. In this world, trust was scarce, and survival often depended on cunning and strength. The city's religious life was deeply entwined with its political and social structures. Temples were not only centers of worship, but also places where power was negotiated and maintained. Priests wielded significant influence, acting as intermediaries between the gods and the people, but also as enforcers of social order. Their authority extended into the legal and political realms, where they could shape decisions and outcomes. The blend of religion and politics created an atmosphere where questioning the status quo was dangerous, and conformity was enforced through both spiritual and temporal means. The streets of Carthage were filled with a mixture of hope and despair. Markets bustled with activity as people bought and sold goods, shared news, and sought opportunities. Yet beneath the surface, there was an undercurrent of fear and suspicion. The city's residents were aware of the sacrifices made in its name, the children lost, the poor ignored, and the quiet struggles hidden behind the facades of wealth and power. This tension was part of the city's fabric, woven into its history and its identity. The legacy of Carthage is one of grandeur shadowed by cruelty. It was a city that achieved greatness through trade and military might, but it also demanded a heavy price from its people. The image of Carthage as a wealthy and powerful city cannot be separated from the realities of its social inequalities and the brutal rituals that marked its culture. These contradictions make Carthage a compelling example of the complexities of ancient urban life, where prosperity and suffering existed side by side. The question that haunts Carthage's history is stark and unsettling. When a city feeds its gods with blood, what mercy is left for its people? This question invites reflection on the nature of power and sacrifice, on the costs of survival and success in a world where divine favor was sought through human lives. It reminds us that beneath the achievements of civilizations lie difficult choices and often painful realities. As we look back on Carthage, we see a city of both light and shadow, a place where the pursuit of wealth and security was inseparable from rituals of fear and control. Its story challenges us to consider the human impact of ancient power structures and the ways in which societies justify acts that would today be unimaginable. The echoes of Carthage's blood-stained history continue to resonate, offering lessons about the complexity of culture and the enduring struggles between wealth, power, and humanity. Carthage's tale is not just one of the past, but a mirror reflecting ongoing tensions in human societies between the privileged and the marginalized, between faith and morality, between survival and sacrifice. Understanding this city's history helps us grasp the intricate web of forces that shape civilizations, reminding us that every great city carries stories of both glory and pain. In the end, Carthage stands as a testament to the dual nature of human achievement, a city that dazzled with its wealth and influence, but was built upon foundations as fragile and painful as the sacrifices made in its name. It invites us to look deeper, to see beyond the surface, and to remember the lives caught in the shadows of history's grand narratives. Sparta was a city unlike any other in the ancient world, a place where the very fabric of society was woven from the threads of war and discipline. From the moment a Spartan child was born, their fate was decided by the state. Strength, obedience, and endurance were valued above all else, and the city's harsh customs reflected a relentless dedication to creating warriors. In Sparta, war was not just a profession, but a religion, a way of life that shaped every aspect of existence. This was a society where individual desires were subordinated to the needs of the state, and where survival meant embracing a brutal system designed to produce fighters who could endure any hardship. The agoge was the heart of Spartan life, a rigorous training system that began in childhood and continued well into adulthood. Boys were taken from their families at a young age to live in communal barracks, where they endured grueling physical challenges, starvation, and constant discipline. They were taught to fight, to steal without getting caught, and to endure pain without complaint. The agoge was not just about building soldiers, it was about forging a collective identity rooted in loyalty to Sparta and its ideals. Boys who failed were cast out, while those who succeeded became part of an elite warrior class, respected and feared throughout Greece. The harshness of the agoge reflected Sparta's deep commitment to war. Every aspect of life was focused on preparing for battle, from the simple meals served to the encouragement of theft as a means to develop cunning and resourcefulness. Stealing was not only tolerated but expected, as long as it was done without being caught, teaching lessons in stealth and survival. This paradoxical encouragement of thievery was part of a broader philosophy that valued cunning alongside brute strength. In Sparta, the ends often justified the means, and the city's laws were written in blood and discipline. Spartan society was structured around a rigid hierarchy, where the ruling class of warrior citizens held power over a large population of helots, enslaved people who worked the land and provided the economic foundation for the city. The helots lived under constant threat of violence and repression, their lives tightly controlled to prevent rebellion. The Spartans' fear of uprisings shaped much of their social and military policy, leading to a state built not only on external conquest, but also on internal domination. The tension between the warrior elite and the oppressed masses was a defining feature of Spartan life. Life in Sparta was marked by paradoxes. The city glorified strength and valor, but was also ruthless in its treatment of the weak and the vulnerable. Those who failed to meet Spartan standards were often abandoned or punished severely. The city's emphasis on collective discipline meant that individuality was suppressed and personal ambition was secondary to the needs of the polis. Yet beneath this rigid exterior, there were complex social dynamics and human stories of resilience and struggle. Spartan women, for instance, had more freedoms and responsibilities than in many other Greek city-states, managing estates and raising strong children who would become future warriors. Spartan laws and customs reflected a society obsessed with war and control. Public policy focused on maintaining the city's military readiness and social order. Any sign of weakness was discouraged, and conformity was enforced through strict social norms and legal codes. The city's leaders believed that only through discipline and shared sacrifice could Sparta survive in a world full of rival powers. This belief justified harsh measures and created a culture where fear and obedience were intertwined with honor and loyalty. The constant preparation for war meant that peace was often uneasy. Sparta's warriors were always ready to march, and the city's political decisions were driven by the need to maintain military strength. This militarization affected every aspect of life, from education to governance, shaping a society where conflict was not only expected but celebrated. Yet this focus on war came at a cost. The human toll was immense, and many Spartans bore scars, both physical and emotional, from a life spent in endless training and battle. The question arises, in a city built for war, who cared for the souls of the broken? Sparta's emphasis on strength left little room for vulnerability or compassion. Those who could not keep up were discarded, and emotional expression was often suppressed. The city's mythology and culture celebrated the ideal of the Stoic warrior, but this ideal masked the human suffering beneath. Families were separated, children were raised in harsh conditions, and the pressures to conform were relentless. Sparta's story is a stark reminder of the complexities of power and survival in the ancient world. It challenges modern notions of civilization and progress, showing that greatness can come with cruelty and sacrifice. The city's legacy is one of discipline and strength, but also of harshness and exclusion. It forces us to consider the costs of a society built entirely around war and control, and the ways in which such a system shapes human lives and values. The echoes of Sparta's militaristic culture continue to resonate, inspiring both admiration and caution. Its story is a powerful example of how a society's priorities shape its character and destiny. Sparta was not merely a city of warriors. It was a city of contradictions, where honor and cruelty, strength and suffering were intertwined in the daily lives of its people. In the end, Sparta stands as a testament to the extremes of human organization and ambition, a city where every law was written in blood and every life was measured by its utility to the state. Its history invites us to reflect on the meaning of strength and the price paid by those who live under the shadow of war. Jerusalem, during the reign of King Herod, was a city caught in the tension between sacred tradition and brutal politics. It was a place where faith and fear coexisted, where holy sites drew pilgrims from across the world, and where the shadow of violence loomed over every corner. Herod's rule was marked by grand architectural projects that transformed the city, including the expansion of the Second Temple. Yet beneath this impressive facade lay a regime built on paranoia, betrayal, and ruthless control. The city was not only a spiritual center, but also a battleground of power struggles and secret intrigues. Herod's paranoia was legendary. He ruled with an iron fist, suspicious of those around him, including members of his own family. The stories of his cruelty are chilling. He executed his wife Mariam and 2 of his sons, fearing plots against his throne. His rule was defined by a relentless effort to maintain power, often through violent means. Secret police patrolled the streets, spies infiltrated the city's neighborhoods, and purges were common. No one was safe from the watchful eye of the king, and fear was a tool he wielded expertly to keep dissent at bay. The temple courts, normally places of worship and community gathering, became arenas of political intrigue. Herod's officials and priests operated a network of informants, monitoring not only the populace, but also rival factions and religious groups. The sacred space was filled with whispers of conspiracy and plots, making it a place where trust was scarce and alliances were fragile. The blending of religious authority and political surveillance created an environment where fear permeated even the most holy moments. Jerusalem's streets were a maze of tension and uncertainty. The city was home to diverse groups, including Jews, Romans, and other peoples, each with their own interests and loyalties. This diversity added to the complexity of governance and the challenges Herod faced in maintaining order. The city's population was often divided by religious and political lines, with various factions vying for influence. This fracturing made the work of spies and secret police even more crucial for the king, who relied on intelligence to anticipate threats and suppress rebellion. The economy of Jerusalem also reflected these tensions. Trade and pilgrimage brought wealth, but the benefits were unevenly distributed. While the elite enjoyed the fruits of prosperity, many lived in poverty and fear. Taxes were high, and the burden often fell on the common people, exacerbating social tensions. This economic disparity fueled resentment and made the city a powder keg of potential unrest. Herod's harsh methods sought to contain these forces, but they also deepened the divides within the population. Religion was both a source of strength and a point of contention. The Jewish faith provided a shared identity, yet interpretations and practices varied widely, leading to conflicts within the community. Herod's efforts to legitimize his rule through temple renovations were as much political as religious, aiming to win favor with the people and the priesthood. Yet many viewed him as a Roman puppet, an outsider whose reign was marked by cruelty rather than piety. This ambivalence added layers of complexity to life in Jerusalem, where faith and politics were inseparable. The secret police operated with a chilling efficiency, using torture, intimidation, and executions to root out opponents. Their presence was felt everywhere, from the narrow alleys to the bustling markets. Accusations of treason could lead to swift punishment, often with little evidence. The atmosphere of suspicion created a culture of silence and fear, where neighbors might betray neighbors and loyalty was a matter of survival. This constant surveillance was a defining feature of Herod's Jerusalem, shaping the daily lives of its inhabitants. Despite the repression, resistance simmered beneath the surface. Various groups, from zealots to religious sects, opposed Herod's rule and the Roman presence. These factions used clandestine means to organize, relying on secrecy and covert communication to avoid detection. Their struggles added another layer of danger and intrigue to the city, making Jerusalem a place of both spiritual significance and political volatility. The city was a crucible where competing visions of faith, power, and freedom clashed. Herod's legacy is one of grandeur and terror. His architectural achievements left a lasting mark on Jerusalem, but his reign was also marked by bloodshed and fear. The city he ruled was a place where faith was tested by violence, where the sacred was intertwined with the profane, and where the quest for power often overshadowed the search for peace. The streets of Jerusalem during his time tell a story of a city both holy and haunted, a place where no one dared to trust completely. The question remains, how does a city built on faith become a place where no one dares to trust? Jerusalem under Herod's rule offers a powerful example of how power, fear, and suspicion can transform even the most sacred places. It challenges us to consider the costs of political ambition and the fragility of trust in times of turmoil. The city's history during this period is a reminder that behind the grandeur of temples and palaces often lies a darker reality of control and conflict. In the end, Jerusalem during Herod's reign was a city of contradictions, a place where beauty and brutality coexisted, and where faith and fear walked hand in hand. Its story invites us to look beyond the monuments and scriptures to the human experiences shaped by power and survival. It is a tale of resilience and repression, of hope and despair, woven into the fabric of a city that remains central to human history and imagination. Tortuga, a small island off the northern coast of Hispaniola, was once a haven for those who lived outside the law. In the 17th century, it became a notorious pirate stronghold, a lawless paradise where freedom was promised, but often came with a price. Pirates from all corners of the world flocked to Tortuga, drawn by the chance to escape the rigid structures of society and carve out a life on their own terms. Yet beneath the wild celebrations and endless revelry lurked a harsh reality. Violence, betrayal, and survival ruled the island as much as any code or allegiance. Life in Tortuga was a constant gamble. The island was a melting pot of sailors, privateers, escaped slaves, and adventurers, all seeking fortune and freedom. But the freedom they found was rough and precarious. There was no formal law beyond the code that pirates themselves created, a set of rules designed to keep order among thieves and outlaws, but often enforced with brutal efficiency. The strongest and most ruthless ruled the island, while the weakest were at their mercy, sometimes tossed overboard or left to fend for themselves in the wild. Pirate justice on Tortuga was swift and unforgiving. Theft, betrayal, or cowardice were met with harsh punishment. A spilled drink in a tavern could escalate into a deadly knife fight, and disputes over loot often ended in bloodshed. The pirate code promised shares of treasure and a voice in decision-making, but these promises were fragile, easily broken when greed or fear took hold. Alliances were temporary and often dissolved in violence, making the island a place where trust was scarce and betrayal common. Despite the danger, Tortuga was a place of wild celebration. The nights were filled with the sounds of laughter, music, and the clinking of rum bottles. Taverns overflowed with pirates who drank heavily, told stories of their exploits, and plotted their next raids. The island's atmosphere was one of chaotic freedom, where rules were made to be broken, and survival depended on a sharp wit and a quicker sword. Yet beneath the surface of this revelry lay constant tension, a reminder that in a world without law, power was the only currency that mattered. The pirates of Tortuga were experts at navigating this precarious existence. They lived by their own codes of honor, which emphasized loyalty to the crew but also demanded ruthless efficiency. Mutiny was a real threat, and captains had to maintain control through a mix of fear, respect, and cunning. The bonds between crew members were often tested by the harsh realities of life at sea and the temptations of wealth and power. In this volatile environment, leadership was as dangerous as it was necessary. Tortuga was also a place where social norms were upended. The rigid hierarchies of the mainland had little meaning on the island, and people from different backgrounds mingled in a way that was rare for the time. Yet this apparent equality was fragile and often overshadowed by violence and competition. Women, though few, played important roles as tavern keepers, traders, or even pirates themselves, challenging traditional gender roles in a world defined by danger and opportunity. The island's strategic location made it a hub for pirate activity in the Caribbean. From Tortuga, pirates launched attacks on Spanish ships and settlements, disrupting trade and spreading fear along the coasts. Their knowledge of the seas, combined with their ruthless tactics, made them formidable opponents. Yet their success depended on the support and complicity of local inhabitants and corrupt officials who profited from their activities. This uneasy alliance between pirates and authorities added another layer of complexity to life on the island. The promise of freedom on Tortuga was always tempered by the reality of violence. Life was unpredictable, and fortunes could be made or lost overnight. The constant threat of naval patrols, rival pirates, and betrayal meant that no one could ever truly relax. The island was a place where dreams of escape and prosperity collided with the harsh truths of lawlessness and survival. Every day was a test of courage, loyalty, and luck. The question lingers, when there is no law but the blade, how does anyone sleep at night? Tortuga's answer lies in the resilience of its inhabitants, who embraced the chaos as part of their identity. They found ways to build communities amid the madness, creating bonds that could withstand the violence and uncertainty. Their stories are tales of defiance and desperation, of men and women who refused to be tamed by the world's rules and forged their own path, no matter the cost. Tortuga's legacy is a testament to the human desire for freedom and the lengths people will go to achieve it. It challenges romanticized notions of piracy by revealing the brutal realities beneath the myths. The island was both a refuge and a prison, a place of opportunity and peril. Its history invites us to reflect on the complexities of power, loyalty, and survival in a world without order. As we consider Tortuga, we see a society shaped by extremes, where joy and terror coexisted, and where every day was a battle for control. The island's story reminds us that freedom is not always what it seems, and that the price of lawlessness can be high. It offers a window into a world where the rules were rewritten in blood, and where the strongest ruled through fear and respect. In the end, Tortuga was more than just a pirate haven. It was a mirror of the human condition, reflecting our struggles for autonomy, security, and meaning in a chaotic world. Its story endures as a powerful example of how communities can form even in the most unlikely and dangerous places, and how the search for freedom often comes with a heavy toll. Alexandria was a city of wonders and contradictions, a jewel on the Mediterranean coast where ancient knowledge and ruthless power collided in a complex dance. Known far and wide for its famous library, the city was a beacon for scholars, philosophers, and seekers of wisdom. Yet beneath this intellectual brilliance lay a world where power struggles, violence, and fear shaped daily life. Alexandria was a city where the pursuit of knowledge often came at a steep price, and where those who questioned too much could find themselves silenced in the shadows. The great library of Alexandria was not just a repository of scrolls and manuscripts, it was a symbol of human curiosity and the quest to understand the world. Scholars from diverse cultures gathered there, sharing ideas and pushing the boundaries of science, philosophy, and art. This concentration of knowledge made Alexandria a cultural and intellectual hub, attracting thinkers whose works influenced generations to come. Yet the library's vast collection also made it a target, a place where political rivalries and power plays unfolded behind the scenes. Alexandria's rulers understood that control over knowledge was as crucial as control over armies and cities. The city was governed by powerful figures who used patronage and intimidation to maintain their grip. Scholars were often caught in the crossfire, their loyalty tested by the demands of political patrons who expected support or silence in return. Those who challenged the prevailing order or threatened established interests faced consequences that ranged from exile to death. The city's vibrant intellectual life was thus shadowed by the constant threat of repression. Riots and conflicts were not uncommon in Alexandria. The city's diverse population included Greeks, Egyptians, Jews, and many others, each with distinct identities and sometimes conflicting loyalties. These differences sometimes erupted into violence, turning neighborhoods into battlegrounds and forcing leaders to intervene with force. The library, as a center of ideas and debates, was occasionally caught in these upheavals, its halls turning from places of learning into fortresses. Scholars were silenced, books destroyed, and the quest for knowledge interrupted by the realities of power struggles. The role of philosophers and intellectuals in Alexandria was complex. They were revered for their wisdom, but also vulnerable to manipulation. Some became pawns in political games used by rulers to legitimize their authority or to undermine rivals. The city's intellectual elite walked a fine line between influence and danger, navigating a world where ideas could inspire but also threaten. The tension between free inquiry and political control shaped much of Alexandria's cultural life, creating an environment both rich and fraught with risk. Alexandria's streets and markets were places of commerce and conversation, where ideas mingled with goods and gossip. The city was alive with the sounds of trade, debate, and the clash of cultures. Yet beneath this lively surface, intrigue and betrayal were never far away. Rulers employed spies and informants to monitor the populace and to suppress dissent. The quest for knowledge was intertwined with the quest for power, making the city a labyrinth of secrets and strategies. The destruction of parts of the library, whether by accidental fire or deliberate acts, remains one of history's great tragedies. It symbolizes not only the loss of ancient knowledge, but also the fragility of human achievements in the face of violence and political turmoil. The library's fate serves as a cautionary tale about the vulnerability of culture and learning when confronted with the forces of fear and oppression. Despite these challenges, Alexandria continued to be a place where knowledge thrived, even if precariously. Its scholars made advances in medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and literature that echoed far beyond the city's walls. The spirit of inquiry persisted, carried forward by those who risked much to preserve and expand human understanding. Alexandria's legacy is thus one of resilience, where the pursuit of wisdom endured amid conflict and uncertainty. The city's story raises important questions. In a place illuminated by knowledge, how many were forced to live in darkness? How many voices were silenced because their ideas challenged power? Alexandria's history reminds us that enlightenment is never guaranteed, and that the struggle between knowledge and control is as old as civilization itself. Alexandria stands as a testament to the power of ideas and the dangers they can provoke. It teaches us that knowledge can be both a source of strength and a threat to those who seek to dominate. The city's history invites reflection on the responsibilities that come with learning and the vigilance needed to protect intellectual freedom. As we look back on Alexandria, we see a city where light and shadow coexisted, where the thirst for knowledge was matched by the thirst for power. It challenges us to consider the price of progress and the importance of safeguarding the spaces where ideas can flourish. Alexandria's tale is a reminder that the pursuit of wisdom is often fraught with peril, but remains one of humanity's most enduring endeavors. In the end, Alexandria was more than just a city of scholars. It was a living example of how culture and politics intertwine, how knowledge can inspire and intimidate, and how the quest for understanding is inseparable from the realities of power. Its legacy encourages us to cherish and protect the fragile light of learning in our own time, lest it be extinguished by fear and violence. Pataliputra, the ancient capital of the Mauryan Empire in India, was a city of immense power and complexity. It was a place where grandeur met danger, where the splendor of palaces and temples contrasted sharply with the fears and uncertainties of its inhabitants. The city was not only a political and economic center, but also a hub of intrigue and surveillance, where the emperor's eyes were everywhere, and silence often meant survival. Life in Pataliputra was shaped by the delicate balance between authority and rebellion, loyalty and betrayal. Under the rule of Chandragupta Maurya, the city grew into a formidable seat of power. Chandragupta was a ruler who understood the importance of intelligence and control in maintaining his vast empire. He employed an extensive network of spies who listened to every whisper and watched every shadow in the city's bustling streets and quiet alleys. These agents of the state reported on the actions of nobles, merchants, and even common citizens, ensuring that no dissent could take root unnoticed. The presence of these spies created an atmosphere of constant vigilance, where trust was scarce and the fear of betrayal was ever present. The emperor's court was a place of both opulence and suspicion. Courtiers vied for favor, but they also kept their eyes open for rivals who might threaten their position. Political intrigue was a daily affair, and conspiracies were met with swift and often brutal punishments. Those who dared to defy the emperor or question his authority faced torture, exile, or execution. The harsh methods used to maintain control were a reflection of the challenges Chandragupta faced in ruling a vast and diverse empire. His reign was marked by both stability and fear, a testament to the complexities of power. Beyond the palaces and government buildings, the city's poorer residents lived very different lives. The slums of Pataliputra clung to the edges of the grand city, where overcrowding, poverty, and disease were common. These neighborhoods were often ignored by the ruling elite, yet they were vital to the city's economy, providing labor and services essential to its functioning. The poor lived under the constant threat of conscription into the army or forced labor on imperial projects, their freedoms severely limited. Their survival depended on resilience, community, and sometimes desperate measures. The contrast between wealth and poverty in Pataliputra was striking. Grand processions and religious festivals showcased the city's wealth and cultural richness, but behind the scenes, many struggled to find food and shelter. The emperor's court was a world of luxury and ceremony, filled with art, music, and religious devotion. Yet, just beyond the palace walls, the realities of life for ordinary people were harsh and unforgiving. This disparity created tensions that the state sought to control through surveillance and force. Trade and commerce flourished in Pataliputra, making it a vibrant and cosmopolitan city. Merchants and artisans from across the empire and beyond came to the city to sell their goods and services. The markets were lively and colorful, filled with the sounds and smells of a thriving urban center. Yet even in these bustling spaces, the presence of spies and informants ensured that nothing went unnoticed. Economic success was closely tied to political loyalty, and those who failed to navigate the city's complex social landscape risked falling into disfavor or worse. The city's religious life was equally complex. Pataliputra was home to many temples and shrines dedicated to a variety of gods and goddesses, reflecting the diversity of beliefs within the empire. Religious festivals were important public events, reinforcing social bonds and imperial authority. However, religion was also a tool of control, used by rulers and priests to legitimize power and encourage obedience. The intertwining of faith and politics added another layer to the city's intricate social fabric. Despite the omnipresent surveillance and strict control, Pataliputra was a city of ideas and cultural exchange. It was a place where scholars, artists, and thinkers could find patronage and support, contributing to the empire's rich intellectual life. Yet the freedom to express ideas was limited by political realities, and those who challenged the status quo risked persecution. The city's culture was thus a mixture of creativity and caution, innovation and conformity. The labyrinth of Pataliputra's streets and social networks was not just a physical reality, but also a metaphor for the challenges of living under a powerful empire. Navigating this maze required skill, loyalty, and sometimes a willingness to bend or break rules. The city's inhabitants, from nobles to commoners, constantly adapted to the shifting dynamics of power and survival. Their stories reveal the human dimension of life in a city that was both magnificent and merciless. The question remains, how did a city of grandeur become a labyrinth of fear? Pataliputra's history offers a window into the complexities of empire, where power is maintained through a combination of spectacle, surveillance, and sometimes ruthless repression. It reminds us that behind the achievements of ancient civilizations are stories of control, resistance, and the struggles of everyday people. The city's legacy challenges us to look beyond the monuments and to understand the lived experiences of those who built and endured the empire. In the end, Pataliputra stands as a testament to the dual nature of power, its capacity to inspire awe and to instill fear. It was a city where the dreams of rulers met the realities of governance, and where the lives of the powerful and the powerless were forever intertwined. Its story invites reflection on the costs of empire and the enduring human spirit that persists even in the face of oppression. The streets of Tenochtitlan, the heart of the Aztec Empire, were a vivid tapestry of life and death, grandeur and terror. This sprawling city rose majestically on an island in Lake Texcoco, connected by causeways to the mainland and teeming with thousands of inhabitants from all walks of life. Its towering temples, bustling markets, and vibrant public spaces spoke of an advanced civilization rich in culture, commerce, and religion. Yet beneath this surface of splendor lay a society marked by strict laws, harsh punishments, and a culture steeped in fear and sacrifice. Tenochtitlan was a city where power was absolute, obedience was demanded, and the shadow of death was never far away. In this empire, the sun god Huitzilopochtli was central to religious and political life. The Aztecs believed that the survival of the world depended on regular offerings of blood to the gods, a belief that justified rituals both awe-inspiring and horrifying. The most notorious of these were human sacrifices, where prisoners of war, criminals, or even volunteers were ritually killed atop temple pyramids. The victim's heart would be torn out and offered to the sun god in a dramatic ceremony that combined reverence with terror. These sacrifices were seen as necessary to sustain cosmic order and ensure the sun's daily rise, binding the people's fate to acts of profound violence. Justice in Tenochtitlan was swift and severe. Punishments for crimes such as theft, treason, or rebellion were often public and brutal, designed to serve as a warning to others. Those found guilty might be executed in the central square, sometimes by having their hearts ripped from their chests, or by other gruesome methods. The markets, usually places of commerce and social interaction, were also watched closely by priests and guards. Surveillance was constant, and any hint of disobedience or dissent was dealt with harshly. The city's laws were not only tools of order, but also instruments of control, maintaining the dominance of the ruling elite. The Aztec social structure was rigid, with clear divisions between nobles, commoners, slaves, and captives. Nobles enjoyed privileges and power, living in comfortable homes near the city center, while the common people and slaves occupied more modest dwellings on the city's outskirts. Despite this hierarchy, all were subject to the strict laws and expectations of the empire. The markets reflected this social complexity, with a vast array of goods ranging from everyday necessities to luxury items, but they were also spaces where power was negotiated and enforced. Traders, artisans, and farmers all played vital roles in the city's economy, but their freedoms were limited by the overarching demands of the state. Religious festivals and public ceremonies were central to life in Tenochtitlan, filling the city with color, music, and dance. These events reinforced social bonds and the legitimacy of the rulers, but they also served as reminders of the ever-present power of the gods and the state. The spectacle of sacrifice was a key element of these festivals, blending awe and fear to create a sense of unity and obedience among the populace. For many, participation in or witnessing these rituals was both a spiritual experience and a stark lesson in the consequences of defiance. The city's defense was as formidable as its culture was rich. Tenochtitlan was protected by a series of causeways, canals, and fortifications that made it difficult for enemies to penetrate. The Aztec military was highly organized, with trained warriors who were feared throughout the region. Military service was both a duty and a path to honor, and captives taken in battle were often destined for sacrifice. The constant readiness for war underscored the precariousness of life in the empire, where conflict and conquest were woven into the fabric of society. Despite its splendor, Tenochtitlan was not a city where escape from the empire's demands was easy. The poor, in particular, lived with the constant threat of conscription, punishment, and death. Their labor sustained the city's economy and its infrastructure, but they had little say in the governance of the empire. The strict social order and harsh laws limited their opportunities and freedoms, binding them to a system that prized obedience and sacrifice above all else. For many, life was a daily struggle against forces far greater than themselves. The question emerges, in a city of such splendor, what chance did the poor have to escape the jaws of empire? The answer lies in the complex realities of Aztec society, where power was centralized and social mobility was limited. The city's grandeur was built on the labor, loyalty, and often the blood of its people, especially those at the bottom of the social hierarchy. Their stories, though often lost to history, are essential to understanding the full picture of life in Tenochtitlan. The legacy of Tenochtitlan is one of both awe and tragedy. It was a city of incredible achievements in architecture, agriculture, and governance, yet it was also a place marked by violence and control. Its history challenges us to confront the ways in which societies use power and fear to maintain order and to consider the human cost of empire. Tenochtitlan's tale is a powerful reminder that the splendor of great cities often conceals the struggles and suffering of many. It invites us to look beyond monuments and myths to the realities of life lived under the shadow of power. The city's story is a window into the complex dynamics of civilization, where beauty and brutality are intertwined, and where the fate of individuals is shaped by forces both divine and human. In the end, Tenochtitlan stands as a testament to the complexities of empire, the intertwining of religion, power, and survival, and the enduring human stories behind the grandeur of history. Its streets and temples speak of a society both magnificent and merciless, challenging us to understand the full depth of its legacy. Throughout history, the world's most dangerous cities have been places where power, fear, and survival are in constant tension. From the grandeur of Babylon to the bloodied streets of Tenochtitlan, these cities reveal the harsh realities beneath the surface of civilization, the lives shaped by laws that protect the powerful while punishing the weak, the rituals that blend faith with violence, and the endless struggles of those caught in between. As we reflect on these ancient cities, it becomes clear that their stories are not just relics of the past, but echoes that still resonate in our modern world. These cities were often masterpieces of architecture and culture, centers of learning, trade, and religion that drew people from far and wide. Yet beneath their impressive facades lay societies built on inequalities, where justice was uneven and cruelty was sometimes a tool of control. The towering ziggurats, sprawling palaces, and bustling markets could not hide the fear and suffering that permeated the lives of many inhabitants. For every festival or grand procession, there were stories of pain, repression, and lost lives. The common thread through these cities is the way power was maintained, not just through armies or wealth, but through fear, surveillance, and sometimes brutality. Leaders and elites used laws, religion, and social structures to reinforce their dominance, often at great human cost. Spies, secret police, and informants wove a web of control that kept dissent in check and ensured loyalty, real or forced. This control created societies where trust was scarce, and survival often meant navigating a landscape of threats both visible and hidden. The ancient laws, whether written on stone or enforced by priests and rulers, often reflected a harsh and unforgiving world. Punishments were severe and public, serving as warnings to others and tools to maintain order. In these cities, justice was not always about fairness, but about preserving the existing hierarchy. Those with power protected themselves and their interests, while the poor, slaves, and outsiders lived with the constant risk of violence and exploitation. Religious beliefs and practices also played a complex role in these cities. Faith was a source of identity and community, but it was also intertwined with politics and control. Rituals of sacrifice, whether symbolic or horrifyingly literal, reinforced the authority of rulers and the gods they claimed to serve. These acts, performed in grand temples or hidden in secret ceremonies, were both expressions of devotion and means of instilling fear. Religion legitimized power and sometimes justified cruelty, making it a potent force in shaping society. Despite the fear and oppression, life in these cities was vibrant and dynamic. Markets bustled with traders, artisans crafted goods that dazzled, and festivals filled the streets with music, dance, and color. The cities were centers of innovation and culture, where ideas flowed and communities thrived, even amid danger. People found ways to resist, adapt, and survive, creating networks of support and moments of joy in a world often marked by hardship. The stories of these ancient cities also remind us of the resilience and complexity of human societies. They show that history is not just about rulers and conquests, but about the everyday lives of people, the merchants, soldiers, priests, slaves, and children who lived, loved, and struggled within these urban landscapes. Their experiences reveal the tensions and contradictions that define civilization. The pursuit of order and freedom, the interplay of fear and hope, the balance between tradition and change. As we consider the legacy of these cities, we see reflections of their patterns in the modern world. Inequality, surveillance, and the use of power to control populations continue to shape societies today. The echoes of ancient cruelty and resistance remind us that the challenges of justice, freedom, and human dignity are ongoing. The past teaches us that progress is fragile and that vigilance is necessary to protect the rights and well-being of all people. The histories of Babylon, Rome, Carthage, Sparta, Jerusalem, Tortuga, Alexandria, Pataliputra, and Tenochtitlan form a tapestry of human experience, rich, complex, and often painful. They show how cities can be both places of greatness and sites of suffering, how culture and cruelty can coexist, and how power can both build and destroy. Their stories invite us to reflect on our own cities and societies, urging us to learn from the past and strive for a future where fear and injustice no longer rule. In the end, the question remains, when cities become cages for the poor and voiceless, are we really so far from the past? The answer depends on how we choose to understand history and how we act in the present. These ancient cities challenge us to see beyond the monuments and myths, to listen to the voices of those who lived in the shadows, and to commit ourselves to building societies where justice and humanity prevail. Their stories are a call to remember that behind every great city are countless lives shaped by forces both visible and hidden, and that the true measure of a civilization lies not in its wealth or power, but in how it treats its most vulnerable. As we close this chapter of history, we carry with us the lessons of these cities, lessons about resilience, resistance, and the enduring human spirit that seeks dignity and hope amid the harshest conditions. And so, the tale of the most dangerous cities in the ancient world ends not with despair, but with a reminder of our shared humanity and the ongoing journey toward justice and compassion. May we heed these lessons and strive to create worlds where the shadows of fear are replaced by the light of understanding and the promise of a better tomorrow.